Mark, you might want to tell us a little bit about your story.
I grew up in a beachside suburb. Like rugby league was a big part of my life. When it comes to gambling, it was always around me. My father was well, still is, compulsive gambler. It was around me for a long time. I didn't start gambling until like my mid-20s or late 20s, though I always had that gambling bug in me, if you'd like to say. Like, I used to love playing cards as a kid, or being around the table when people played cards, and when it was over, I still wanted to stay there and keep playing. You know, at school, throwing 20-cent pieces up against a brick wall, or cards for sports cards and so forth. And so it was in me from a very young age. And then once I got the bug, if you'd like to say, or once I got that first excitement of that gambling, the adrenaline rush, I grabbed onto it.
And what happened from there?
What happened from there was, it took me only a very short amount of time from going from having that first bet, and it was that first unexpected win that I did win. And I think from the first time when I did gamble, I would have won it might have been a few $1,000s, and I chased that until I lost a unit. Had no license, couldn't go to work. So it took me, from when I started, I dug the hole very, very quickly, a hole for myself.
Do you remember that point where, that cathartic point was, I've crossed the line now?
I look back at it now and I could see, but at the time, no, not really. Not really. There was times, when I had, say, for instance, I might have had parking fines. I wouldn't pay the parking fines, therefore I lost my licence.
There's a lot of talk about rock bottom. Where was rock bottom for Mark?
Well, as Tommy knows and Rob, every rock bottom's got a trapdoor to it. My first rock bottom was when I had nowhere to live, and I lived with my mother and my stepfather. I mentioned it last night, and what happened was they went away for a weekend, and I stole stuff. I say steal now, I used to say borrow in those times, but I still took stuff out of the place. I went to a hock shop, hocked the gear, thinking that I could go have a win, go get the stuff out of the hock shop, go take it back home, put it all into place so my mother and stepfather wouldn't notice. And they had an inkling something was wrong, and they come back at about 3 hours later and come back home to a house with no stereo, my mum's wedding ring, jewellery, whatever I could hock at a hock shop. And that was my first, I would say that was my first rock bottom.
Okay, thanks.
If I can interject, now we're hearing from the real experts, but that's why Dr. Custer's contribution was so significant, because people who don't know about problem gambling, if they heard that story, they're not going to see Mark as the giving, loving, warm man that he is. They're going to say, well, he's a crook. That son of a bitch stole from his parents. Of course he's got a personality disorder. He's got a criminal mind. That was the public perception of all gamblers until Dr. Custer helped, and now the scientists have figured out Mark really wasn't stealing, and I'm not making excuses for you, pal.
No.
But he was taking a short-term loan to allow him to regain his balance so he could help his mother and his stepfather. It sounds crazy, but the mindset is not, I'm doing something wrong. It's, I've got to do this to get well. Gambling has hurt me at a level where only getting more money can fix the damage. So in some twisted way, it's, I owe it to these people to go hawk their stuff so I can pay off all my bills so I can start paying them rent. It's a very different way of thinking.